at my notes, so but then I'll continue to look back, and please, my colleagues, flag me if I'm overlooking anybody who's asking a question or needing anything just for the next moment or two. Um, thank you very, very much. We have Susan here, we have Allison, we have Anya, we have Carolyn, and I know we were hoping to have a couple of the ladies who also joined us from the UK. But Abby is here, my colleague Abby from the UK will introduce a few of the folks who are joining in a second, a few of the new folks that you might not be so familiar with. But just to say, we're joining here today to talk about the new phase of the Ending Child Marriage Project in Sierra Leone. And your support of this project has been really phenomenal, really allowed us, yours and the UK Women's Network as well, to carry out this tremendously successful project that I know you'll hear more about from those joining, has really, really elevated our sort of global attention to the issue of child marriage in Sierra Leone. Obviously, with the bill, just been absolutely a phenomenal development. So, but you all started your support from the beginning. And then you went to Sierra Leone in February with us, which was not an easy trip. Going to the communities in Kailaun, meeting with the Girl Champions, meeting with Paramount Chiefs. I know we all really love Dr. Isada Mahoy, she was new then. I guess she's had a year or so under her belt almost, but Minister of Gender and Children's Affairs. You met with a member of Parliament who talked about just her passionate quest to get child marriage criminalized in Sierra Leone. And of course, we met with the First Lady in her home. And that discussion started way back in 2020 when she met with us, really in the height of COVID, talking about this issue of child marriage in Sierra Leone. So just full circle. And then after returning home to the US, it's this group that provided the key support to get that bill, help us get that bill across the finish line in June, which I think all of us were, of course, thrilled, maybe a little surprised that it was passed in such short order, but that was what the First Lady said she was aiming to do. And we're all just so thrilled. So thank you for your leadership. It continues to be important. And that's why we wanted to share with you first that next phase of the Ending Child Marriage Project, which we're calling ECM2, just for short. And really, one of the main focuses of this project, and particularly at the beginning, is leveraging that new Prohibition of Child Marriage Act to drive that progress further. So we also want to talk to you about that. We want to talk to you about the funding that we're going to be seeking for this project and our proposed fundraising plan, and how we also want to leverage early support to ensure success for this next phase. So with that, I also just want to mention that, as I said, it's sort of gotten more attention than when we started this project. And so there's been interest from other partners who are connected with Save the Children to hear more about this project, potentially participate. And we're also really looking to appeal to philanthropists globally on the international scale. So we're delighted to have with us today, and forgive me if I mispronounce your last name, but Andrew Secundi, who's vice chair of Save the Children's Africa Advisory Board. So we also have Chantal Wazira, who's head of Africa Philanthropy, and she manages that board. Abby De Leone, who's head of strategic partnerships for Save UK, and Maza Getachew, who's the liaison here at Save US for the Obama Foundation. So I want to pause for a second, and we're so glad you could be here with us, Andrew, and allow you to say just a couple of words if you don't mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary, and good afternoon or good morning to everybody here on the call. My name is Andrew. I'm based in London, and I've been involved with SAVE for about 5.5 years now. I've got a slightly odd role in that I'm not in the day-to-day operations of Save the Children, but I'm the vice chair of what we call the Africa Advisory Board, which Chantal runs. And our role is really to be sort of people who are outside of SAVE, but that have an intimate interest in Africa and an interest in philanthropy, to see if we can draw from our sort of private sector experience and our experience living across the continent to help um, guide and aid SAVE's activities on the ground. A core part of what we do, and we're there about 12 of us now, is to help get our networks going so that we can actually lead on including African philanthropy into what SAVE is doing. And the idea being that, we do want African philanthropists to get involved and help to shape and influence some of the programming that happens on the ground. So we're always really interested in understanding what the best sort of initiatives are and the programs of work that are coming out of the organization, because it helps us then to go out and speak to our donors in our communities. And so we had a wonderful presentation from Mary and Modupe on the 23rd of October on the work that's been done in Sierra Leone on ending child marriage in the Calhoun region. And the entire board was just so extremely impressed with the work that you all have facilitated. I think the impact of what you've all done here can't be underestimated. I think it will, in the fullness of time, be felt for generations to come, not just in the Calhoun region, but hopefully across Sierra Leone and eventually across the continent. And so as a board, we're just extremely keen to understand a bit more about how you've all done this, to support Save the Children in spreading this out across the country and hopefully across the region. I think for us, a few things that stood out were, firstly, this was an extremely challenging assignment, which was delivered over 2 years. Challenging because it is such a sensitive issue with so many long-standing cultural issues and conflicts of interest between what's been happening in the customary law side and the local communities versus where I think the head of state wanted to go, right? And the temptation could have been to go in and have a very bullish top-down dictatorial approach to try to resolve this problem. And as we've all seen, that rarely ever works. And so the thoughtfulness that went into the localization of the design of the program, the delivery of the program, the engagement at community levels, district levels, speaking to traditional leaders, looking at customary laws, and then combining that with the formal legal structures at parliamentary level was incredible to see. Made us very proud as a board that we can genuinely go out and say, look, SAVE is very thoughtful when it goes into these problems. There's decades and decades of experience, on the ground experience, knowledge of cultural nuances. And that is what really makes the difference in philanthropy. At a time, by the way, when philanthropy is hard to come by, given everything that's happening in the world. So another aspect is that as donors, you actually went on ground to understand who this initiative impacts. You met with the First Lady, but you met with some of the beneficiaries as well in the village. And so to see that, you're not just putting money forward, but you're actually wanting to understand personally what is going on was incredibly encouraging. And for us as a board, this is exactly the sort of initiative we want to showcase. It's the initiative we want to bring to our audience. And just on behalf of us, we just wanted to thank you all for all the work that you've done. We look forward to seeing this program grow, and we're here to help you in any way that we can.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you so much. That was wonderful. It was great to be able to speak with the board. And Madupe did a beautiful job too. Thank you. And Maza, if you could just say just a couple of words. I know we want to move forward to Yanti as well soon, but just with regard to the Obama Foundation, if you could pipe up there as well. Thanks.
Sure. Thanks, Mary. And lovely to be here with everyone. Great to meet you all. So as Mary mentioned, my name is Maza Getachew. I manage our partnership with the Obama Foundation here at Save the Children US. This is a partnership that began in early 2022. And they actually reached out to us wanting to collaborate, recognizing our sort of expertise in programming around broader gender equality and gender-based violence programming, particularly interested in understanding our work around ending child marriage. So um, it was great to sort of recognize, that sort of expertise lays within SAVE. The partnership is growing. We're starting to collaborate. They have a fantastic alliance of grassroots leaders across sub-Saharan Africa, who are seeking to learn and understand the best practices. So I think projects like this, that have potential to be scaled across the region, are particularly of interest, especially given the localization approach, which is a very deep priority for the foundation. So we did invite them to the site visit earlier this year, but their travel schedule was already quite full. But they were definitely interested in learning how the project grows, wanting to understand how we're leveraging the policy landscape and that environment, to ensure that we're able to not only make these policies happen, but also hold leaders to account as well. So I'm here to help shepherd lessons learned back to my contact at the foundation and really explore opportunities for us to deepen our partnership and impact for girls around the world. Thanks.
Thanks, Maza. I promise I'm almost done. With that, we're going to speak with Patrick Analo, who is, of course, the country director for Sierra Leone, as well as Madube about the project, Dr. Madube Taiwo. But before we do that, we're going to invite Yanti. Thank you so much, Yanti, for being here to share her thoughts. Yanti.
Thanks, Mary, and thanks, Andrew. Wonderful to meet you and hear that very compelling endorsement of the work to date. I do remember. I get asked a lot nowadays, or certainly over these past months, where my sort of green shoots of hope are, and I invariably say, and I have a couple of examples, but Sierra Leone is always one of them. And then sometimes people look at me quizzically as like, A, where is Sierra Leone and why are you so excited about it? But because I give this example. And what can be done when even a small group of people really want to make things happen, both at the grassroots level, but also in the political sort of side. And it is one of the best examples I've seen. When I joined SAFE 12 years ago, I was sort of early taught, Carolyn will smile at this, about our theory of change. And I'm like, oh, that looks really interesting on the PowerPoint slide with the beautiful, visuals, etc. But this is it. And we don't often see it this clearly played out in practice within even our own sort of, time span or tenure. You can hope and you can try, but it doesn't always work in this way. And here it did. And I do remember sitting in the First Lady's office when she just came in for her first term, and she was literally in her office and the boxes were strewn around. She was trying to figure out what her role actually was as First Lady. And this was with Patrick, with one of your predecessors, I think, one or two ago. And even then she was saying early child marriage, that's the one. I'm going to, if I need to knock on doors, if I need to, that is the thing. I'm going to put my, my colors to the mast on. So it's really wonderful to see how we've been able to capitalize on that, but really make it to what everybody was saying, such a locally carried thing. I mean, our trip to Calaun with a couple of 100 strong women and some of our trustees, and to hear the paramount chiefs there essentially extol the virtues of the intervention, what has happened to their communities, how they wanted to get engaged, how others wanted to now get engaged on the basis of their testimonials for their as to the benefits it brought to their communities. That even then you could sense, oh, there's something really, really good happening here that really warrants further support. So I think we're really at the cusp of that. I mean, as all my colleagues know, we always want to drive for policy change. We want to drive for the right laws, and then we also say immediately, but that is not everything. That is not a silver bullet. You then really need to take the momentum to help drive accountability, implementation, support for local communities to continue this work on the back of the learnings that we have. But hopefully scale it more, embed it deeply into government structures and community structures, so that it doesn't always need, the direct helping hands of Save the Children or any other organization. So that journey is really upon us. I think it's an unbelievable opportunity for all of us. And it's also one that we're very keen, but I'm sure Mary will talk about this too, to see if we can use these learnings in some of the other countries where ECM is still, such a scar. So really thank you for being early investors and see this potential when there was almost nothing to see, but you saw, this group and your many collaborators who are not in this call, this group saw through it and they saw the potential in those girls and what that could mean for their society. And it's been just amazing for us, all of us, to be a little bit of a part of.
Thanks, Yanti. That was great and all so true. And now Patrick's going to give us a snapshot. So I know he's got things he wants to talk about, but certainly of where we are in this moment, in terms of those advocacy efforts that we took from April to present, some of the desires expressed from the highest levels of Sierra Leone government for SAVE to really continue playing a key role in eradicating child marriage in Sierra Leone. And also, as Yanti sort of mentioned in terms of legislation, how this new potential project or this new project has the potential to drive progress against child marriage also in other critically important legislation. So again, legislation is not being everything, but being a piece. We also think that's pretty exciting about the next project. Patrick?
Thank you very much, Mary. And I can tell you for a fact that I have never been so excited in my humanitarian work as much as I've been, especially on this project, specifically given the period with which we have been able to successfully kind of realize the impact that we intended. And as I speak about it, first of all, last year we had the first group of 100 strong women visiting, sometimes in March last year, 2023, led by Yanti. And then again, we were fortunate to have again a follow-on visit by this representative from the same group in February this year. And within that period, I can tell you for a fact, like for example, the passing of the bill or the act on ending child marriage. It's something that when the group was here in February, we met the First Lady and we agreed that initially this prohibition of child marriage was part of the bigger bill on Child Rights Act. And there were a few contentious issues specifically on FGM and other GBV kind of based violence that we know have very strong roots in some of the traditional practices. And with the inspiration of the First Lady, we agreed that, okay, let's isolate the ending child marriage bill on its own because there is no contention on that particular aspect of the bill. And so it was a strategy that I think was very instrumental in making sure that the bill passes. And you can't believe it, by June, it went to Parliament, and by August, we had the bill passed into a law. Now, its impact is so tremendous for the country, I can tell you for a fact that it now provides a legal framework that we, not only us, any practitioner, and including the government and the law enforcement agencies, can use that bill to ensure that the girls remain in school. They are given an opportunity to realize their full potential. And this issue of families using girls as a way of, marrying them off so that they can meet their economic needs is no longer an option now in Sierra Leone, and we are proud of that. The other bit of it is that, if I may say, and this law also has had an impact not only in Sierra Leone, but also across in Africa. I can tell you the number of interviews I had to do immediately after the passage of the bill, with various international media houses, the BBC, Deutsche Welle News, and some Swedish news also was very tremendous, because they wanted to see how we have been able to do this in Sierra Leone so that it can be replicated across Africa, because there are so many other places where we have child marriage as a major issue. And then after the passage of the bill, now the real work, and that is why we are very glad to talk to you again, is the real work now begins, because now we want to convert some of those laws into actually policy documents. We are working with the Ministry of Gender and Children Affairs. And unfortunately, not unfortunately, but because in recognition of the great work that we have done, the ministry is really like pushing us to make sure that we are part of the policy development team. And but they also recognized us. If I can show off a bit, this is a trophy that we received recently from the government.
There.
Can you see it? Yes, the
And I'm
one that
showing it on
Modupe is
screen, too.
receiving on our behalf. Modupe is the photo receiving it, and it's written on Government of the Republic of Sierra Leone, awarded to save the children in recognition of your dedication, extraordinary contribution, and outstanding performance to the gender, social welfare, and inclusion sector of Sierra Leone, given on this date, 11th day of October 2024, by the Honorable Minister of Planning and Economic Development. It was recognition of this great work, and the government recognizes us, and it has given us, for us in Save the Children, especially in Sierra Leone, it's our flagship project, especially when we are engaging with in-country donors, and also when we are engaging with the members and other donors. And therefore, the real work begins. Modupe will talk about the phase 2 of the project. The other bit as a result of this is also the Ministry of Gender and Children Affairs are supposed to present to Parliament the Act, the Child Rights Act, which now talks about the other areas in terms of FGM. And they strongly believe that this will contribute a lot, and Save the Children, we should contribute a lot to ensuring that that act, or rather that bill, goes through Parliament. And we have been tasked, or we have been asked to actually mobilize the parliamentarians, as we did with this previous one, mobilize communities and the other key stakeholders like the paramount chiefs, so that they get the buy-in, and it will be easier for it when it goes to Parliament. So I'd like to stop there and invite Modupe probably to talk about where we go from here with the ECM2.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Nice to be here. So I'll follow on from what Patrick said. And without also emphasizing on our big win, we know very well that the engagement at the grassroots level had culminated very neatly into the national law that we have. Now, in moving to ECM2, which is the second phase of this project that we're really excited about and looking forward to, we intend to capitalize on this critical moment, because for us, this big win is a critical moment for us in Save the Children and in Sierra Leone as a country. We like to capitalize on this by working with the national governments, the district level government, and the local government, and also the communities. We're still focusing on the 15 communities where we had implemented the first phase, to ensure that we are able to cascade the provisions of the bill so that we create awareness around the bill. Everyone gets to know what the bill is about. And particularly for the children network, we have a network of children in Sierra Leone we want to work directly with them to develop a child-friendly version of the law, such that they are also able to cascade this to the other children across the country. We are also going to work with parents, with caregivers, and political leaders, religious and traditional leaders across the 15 communities where we had worked earlier in Kailan district to understand the law and to be able to to increase the awareness around the law and to understand the consequences for violating the law. The Ministry of Gender and Women Affairs has a prerogative to be able to develop the implementation framework. So at the start of this ECM2, we will work very closely with them to ensure that the implementation framework of this law is clearly defined and the different roles and responsibilities of the different sectors are also clearly defined so that everyone will be able to become accountable for implementing different components of the law. So in this project, when the Other Strong team visited Kailan, there was an interaction with the children, the girls champion, and we noticed that the girls champion particularly indicated that for them to become more empowered and to be able to prevent child marriage, they would need some form of economic empowerment. So this project will be supporting economic empowerment, and also we'll be bringing them together in a group we called Village Loan and Savings Association. When they start their businesses, they would be able to put some savings together and they can take loan from that group. And it's going to be a self-governed group where they will develop their own constitution and governed themselves. And so it also provides opportunity for the girls and the young mothers to be able to develop constitutions that govern them, be able to abide and comply with such constitutions within the boundary, and also be able to become very accountable, become accountable for themselves and for the loans that they're going to be taking and to be able to expand their businesses. We are hoping to reach, in this second phase, a total of 4,250 individuals, broken down into over 2,000 girls, over 1,000 boys, and close to 1,000 women, and about 300 to 500 men. And now the essence of this is to ensure that everyone that is critical in addressing issues of child marriage are involved directly. And again, also involving men and boys we have found it's a proof of concept for us in the first phase. And we have found that it has been very useful in promoting gender equality because the boys and the men now became gender champions who are promoting gender equality, women's voice and participation, and ability to take on leadership roles. So we want to see more of that support in the second phase. Overall, indirectly through our communication strategies and through campaigns and advocacy, we are proposing to reach about 1 million persons, and hopefully we will be able to get to that. We have an estimate of about $2 million for us to be able to achieve this within the next 2 years. However, we have structured this into phases. We're looking at the first phase to support the layout of the groundwork through the new law. Once we're able to create that critical mass and momentum around increasing awareness for the new law at the national level, working with the government, and then within the communities at the district level, working with key stakeholders and key influencers in the community to understand the law. So this will be largely what we'll be doing in the first phase. Once we're able to create that level of momentum, increase that awareness, then we can work more directly with the girls in the communities. We can work with the parents and caregivers in the communities to be able to ground the gains that we have made through the advocacy and through the campaigns. We are looking at our successes to be an expanded awareness, and then we also want to see a strengthened implementation space, implementation framework for the provision of child marriage acts. And we also want to see how this culminates into informing the passage of the Child Rights Act, because this is what is on the front burner in the parliament now. We also want to see a more equitable gender relationship between men and women and increased economic empowerment for the girls, because we have observed and noted that one of the reasons why girls go into early marriage or why parents give their children into child marriage is because for economic reasons. Several researches have also proven that. So when they have an improved economic opportunity, economic empowerment, that will reduce the incidences of child marriage and help them to achieve their life aspirations and be able to take care, of their economic needs. We also want to amplify the voices of the young people around advocacy. I'd mentioned earlier that the Children's Forum Network are critical stakeholders in the implementation of the second phase, because they have networks, they have chapters across all the 16 districts in the country. And so we will be able to work with them, because that is a very strong structure in the country to quickly provide information and quickly ensure that the information reaches the lowest level. We also want to improve community services and community collaboration, just like we did in the first phase. We want to see how this become also more fortified, such that everyone become more accountable in the implementation of the law and in reporting cases when that happens. So hopefully these are our desire and our strategies that we are looking to achieve in the second phase. Thank you. I'll answer questions if we have.
Thanks, Mindy. We want to pause and open up for thoughts and questions. Thank you. Anya, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question. I wasn't quite clear on how you meant to roll this out. I know you talked about different phases, and the first one really dealing more with gaining more traction in the legislature. I'm wondering, at what point are we actually going to be engaging again with all the girl champions that we have carefully, nurtured all this time through the program? At what point are we getting back in with them? Because I'm a little concerned that they drop off, or that we, lose touch and sort of don't go forward as much as we would like to.
Okay, thank you very much. So we would see simultaneous activities running, which was also the way we implemented the first phase, which started from the lower level at the community level, the district, and culminated into the national. But thank goodness we have this law now. So for us, this law is very critical, first of all, to ensure that compliance is reached across the communities, because we still see some cases of child marriage happening. So it is very important for us to create that visibility and publicity around the law so that everyone in the community is fully aware. Howbeit, we will also simultaneously work with the girls, because we're still in touch with them. We have complementary activities running in the same district. And so some of these girls are being involved in some of these activities. So we are still very much in touch with the girls. And they are also very expectant of particularly the request they had made when the visits happened in February. And we have assured them that those women who visited them they are on their minds, and they would definitely come back to them. So as the national advocacy and campaign around the law is going on, many of these girls actually are going to be champions in promoting the law. So we're going to be engaging them alongside as we're doing the advocacy. Also, helping them to structure out the economic activities they want to do, because it is one thing to have the aspiration to want to, it's another thing to also think deeply around what skills they currently have, what skills they don't currently have, and how can we help them build those skills, and how do they develop their literacy, their financial literacy skills. So we will be doing all of those alongside as the campaign is going on before we get into putting them into groups. It will take an upward of 6 months for them to go through the content of understanding financial literacy, how to develop a business plan, how to work in a group that is self-governed. So we will take them through all of those processes before the actual funding is released to them to set up their businesses. So these will be simultaneous activities. So we're not going to lose them off. They're not going to drop off at all. Yeah.
Okay, great. Then I just didn't understand your sequence. I'm glad to hear it's all contemporaneous. That's great.
Yeah.
I think to clarify, Madupe, my understanding too is that it being a $2 million project and that first sort of $500,000 stage, thrust for the bill, it's sort of front loaded, right? So we're still doing other stuff, but and still talking to the girls, still working with them, but a lot of that funding will help us specifically with the bill and rolling out the bill in particular.
Yes, because that's actually the pain point at the moment. The bill really needs to be filtered across the country. It needs to be filtered to the ground so that people who still have intention of getting those girls into marriage already know that there are penalties to doing that. So we want to be able to, as much as possible, make sure that that gets really right through to the people and they know the consequences of that. But with that going on, and on the side, we're also engaging the girls because, like I mentioned, there are some activities that are currently going on in the communities. And so continue to engage the girls to plan with them, the financial literacy training, putting the content together, adapting the curriculum, getting them to be part of, structuring the content, prioritizing what modules they will be training in. So all of those preparatory activities will still be going on. May not necessarily require large funding to do that with the girls, but the biggest chunk of this front load will go into that advocacy and campaign around the law. Yeah.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Yeah, so I think he might have dropped off, but I actually had a question for Andrew. But maybe is he still there? Okay, I can't see everybody on the screen. Great. So my question, Andrew, was how you would be approaching so I think it's fantastic that we're looking at engaging African philanthropists. I think that's just a great next step, in addition to obviously everything that 100 Strong can do. But I was interested, Andrew, in how you would be taking this forward with your group and how they feel about this kind of political advocacy, because sometimes that can be tricky. So I just wanted to see how you were going to take that forward.
No, absolutely. So, look, in the beginning, what we're going to do now is work with Chantel and Mary and the team to figure out what kind of collateral can we use to summarize this program, right? In terms of what went into it, what the outcomes have been, what's happening next. And we've got a sort of captive audience, if you will, of African philanthropists that we've been engaging over the years. And we quite routinely sort of bring ideas and opportunities to them, whether that's just through sort of email campaigns or one-on-one conversations or events that we have on the continent and in London, like the event we had in Nairobi a month or two ago, which had about 200 or more than 200 people attending it. So we've got quite a lot of platforms and avenues to showcase work, and then usually follow that up with sort of one-on-one conversations to say, hey, would you like to get involved? Some of these philanthropists are what you'd call traditional, sort of more senior philanthropists. Some of them are what we call next generation philanthropists, who I think will be extremely aligned in either case, but certainly with the latter, with this sort of program, and will have no issue at all and be very supportive, I think, of even the political aspects of this sort of work.
Thanks, Andrew.
If I may add just one quick thing on that, is that what we have realized and what we're seeing for many of the conversations we're having with philanthropists in Africa is that the way that we have approached the work in Sierra Leone and the way we have worked at the community level, local level, national level really resonates so much in how they understand localization and how they understand the impact that we can make. And I think this is one of the most like incredible examples of how we're able to listen to what the communities wanted. And then some of the hot topics, we're able to just like park them on the side so that we can actually be able to pass a bill that has been very impactful. So I think to Andrew's point is about figuring out how we package it and what role they can actually play, even if it's like seen as a very political topic.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, Chantel. Thank you, Andrew.
So glad you're both here. It's exciting to think about all of that. Susan and Allison, I don't want to skim over if you have any thoughts or questions. No. I know we just sent it last week, and it was quite a long proposal, but we did send a short version as well. Just in terms of looking at that, did you have any particular questions, aside from what Madupe has shared and Patrick today, on that?
I think I wasn't very clear on, Mary, on the time frame. So we have phase 2 now, but section 1 of phase 2, right? Which is mostly advocacy, which again, completely understand. Is that a 6-month time frame? And I know some of these other things are happening simultaneously, but how do we think about not only measuring progress along the way, but also if you're looking for 500,000 up front, when does the next tranche of funding need to be in place for the next step? And what is that next step?
That's a great question, and I'll let probably Patrick might be someone who could speak to that. But I will say at first, one thing that Patrick drove home was the advocacy funding that was provided from April until now. We're actually still utilizing that funding. The bill got passed, and then it was sort of the beginning of what we're proposing to do now, which is, socializing that bill, getting the bill out to the country, to the communities. So that's been a really important bridge piece from ECM1 to ECM2. And that funding is looking to be completely spent in this month, in November. And again, Patrick, I'll let you jump in, but just from my understanding, our hope is to have $500,000 in commitments by the end of this year. That would be ideal, so that when the beginning of next year starts, they can start rolling that out as well. And Patrick, if you want to jump in.
Just as Mary has indicated, and thanks, Mary, for that. I think we are actually modeling this funding model, so to speak, along the same way as we have done with the previous one, where we kind of structured our activities or interventions in phases, and then it provided us ample time, for example, for us to raise the funds and so on. And that is why the initial funding of 500 is very critical, and we believe that can take us for another 6 to 7 months. And then now we will also be like phasing out, providing phases for the next tranche that we can raise through other philanthropies, through the same team. We are always very grateful for that. And as Mary has said, for sure, like the 125K that we got in in March, it really made a difference for us to achieve the work that we did. And therefore, we are looking at the same kind of modalities in terms of raising funds for this project. We also recognize the fact that, as Andrew mentioned earlier, that we are looking at almost all the same people, especially when it comes to traditional philanthropies and so on. We know their hands are, full. But if we have that structured kind of interventions, which we can be assessing as we progress, I think that will be very helpful.
And we're looking at this specifically so that, there's that first front-loaded piece, and then we do have time. We do have more time to continue to plan.
Yeah.
And we're also looking at, not to go further, but engaging the First Lady again, in helping us to do a launch for this project in early next year, so that the idea would be, and that's an idea that we would, definitely love your support with, in terms of helping us achieve that first chunk of funding. And speaking, of course, to others, and again, we're so grateful that Andrew and others are here, achieving that first $500,000 mark, so that we can move forward when we launch. Sort of, it's in essence almost like a nucleus fund. When we launch and we say we already come this far, and then she can help us appeal to say, we'd like to continue this. Please help us. Madupe? You're on. There you go.
Thank you. Yeah, we actually like to see a seamless phases process, and just like it's been described, the first chunk of the 500, when it comes in, as we described, that we like to create that visibility, we like to create that the advocacy around the law, but at the same time, we are also getting to understand the plans of the girls, that we're not losing in touch with them. So the essence of this is such that by the time we're moving out of, the awareness, the momentum that we had created, we will then by then already have a design of the kind of economic empowerment, the kind of skills the girls want to achieve, to learn, and how they want to organize themselves. So all of this back-end information would have been able to gather them, and would be able to clearly define them, so that when we're speaking about the next tranche of the funding, we have all the evidences that we need to present to you to be able to fund, because by then we would have been able to cost them sufficiently, would have been able to have clearly defined economic empowerment approaches, the content of education they want, and how the groups will be organized. So that is how we would like to see that seamless procedure, play out. And that's why we said, so the first 6 months to 7 months of the campaign is also to give us that leverage of space to do a more in-depth work with the girls, because eventually that economic empowerment is very critical, because it helps them to build that confidence, to be more self-reliant, to be more economically independent, and so they will not be influenced into going into child marriage. Even when the law is out there and the consequences are out there, they also have that self-confidence and are able to take their own decisions for themselves. So in another 6 months after that, we would also be looking to see that. But that can be broken in 3 months, depending on availability of funding and the scope of skills they want to learn, and the length of how they want to organize them. We're looking to be able to sustain this project really through the economic empowerment for the girls, because we've had an experience of the government affairs, the government, the Global Affairs Canada funding, and we have seen how sustainable that can be. Those adolescent mothers, up till date, even though the project ended about a year ago, they are still working together as a group. They are still holding their financial management meetings. They're still giving themselves loans. So this is a very sustainable part of the project that we're looking at. So it requires us to do a very deep dive into the needs, the scope, so that we're sure we're targeting appropriately.
Thanks, Madupe. I'm just looking for questions. So yes, so ultimately it's a $2 million project, set to be completed over 2 years. We have that bridge funding, that bridge project, as Patrick describes it, between ECM1 and ECM2 that's still happening, which is the advocacy piece that you helped fund, which is being completed. The funding is being spent down this month. And so our goal is to raise that $500,000 to cover stage 1, which will lay the groundwork and launch ECM2. So, we thank you all for just everything you've done for ECM in general, for being there at the beginning. And we'd love to ask for your consideration in helping us get to that 500,000 mark for that first stage, and then, hit the ground running in 2025.
Mary, can I just clarify? You said it's a $2 million campaign that you want to complete in 2 years. Is that you want to complete the funding in 2 years? You think you're going to complete all this work in 2 years?
Right now we have the actual work for 2 years. Yes.
Okay,
I mean, the funding as well.
Landscape. I applaud you.
Patrick, would you want to speak to
Is
that?
you? You're going to implement all this? 2 years? That's great.
Yes, Modupe and our team have really sat down and kind of have a work plan together with the proposed budget, and we have a very strong anticipation that yes, with the work that we want to do, we could cover it in 2 years, and it would cost us that 2 million. And that's why we are saying that the first tranche, if it comes before the end of the year, we start as soon as possible, December, January. The first 6 months, we should be able to lay the groundwork in terms of engaging and developing the policy documents, in terms of sharing and ensuring that the act itself is rolled out to the communities where we work. And then the follow-on is now where we what Modupe was describing, that try to really see what are some of the tangible actions that we can do. Again, we are proposing that should be take the second half of 2025 as we go into 2026.
Maybe just
amazing.
to add
Great.
to that
Great.
also, as part of our localization agenda, we have a local partner that we're working with in Island District. The partner is also a very strong partner, very formidable, with effective staff team members, and also who have gained ground in the districts, recognized by the district government. And so we'll be working alongside with them to further expand the scope of this work and to be able to sustain these projects. So we have a lot of hands on board that would help us to achieve our expectation within the time frame that we have indicated.
Well, thank you all so very much. Thanks for, joining us to hear about the project. I hope you're as excited as we are. I mean, I think this has been incredibly thoughtful too, in the way it's taken a while. So sorry, it's taken quite a bit for us to actually get the proposal to you. But the team has really been thoughtful in the way they're able to, I mean, not only just the process, but the activities, going. And there was a debate even, do we actually go into other communities, or do we stay in the first 15? And just so much thought was put into that to say, no, we're going to stay in that 15. We're going to deepen our impact, and we're going to use this law to do that, as well as the input from the girls, that you saw, and some of our other key successes, and even projects that are outside of ECM, like the GAC funded project, bringing some of those pieces in to really make this a strong, well-planned, effective project that really has legs. And I get really excited. I don't know if you've heard the First Lady when she talks about what she hopes for, not just in Sierra Leone, but in Africa, and how she's got influence with other First Ladies, and, all of that, I mean, ties back to this project. And, hopefully with your help for the initial piece, moving forward, this has really become a global effort. And I think we have so many more folks that we can call in and call upon to get it to the finish line, African philanthropists. And I mean, just to have the Obama Foundation's engagement, if we're able to do that on this project, is going to really drive that profile up even further too. And maybe we'll go back and we'll visit Sierra Leone with the Obama Foundation. Who knows? Maybe we'll visit with Michelle. That would be really great. Are you trying to talk, Carolyn? I'm sorry. No, okay. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Great work.
Thank
Have
you.
a great
Thank
rest
you
of
all.
your day.
Good seeing you again.
Thank you. Thank
Okay,
you.
great. Pleasure talking to you.
Patrick and Madupa, yeah, we can stay on. Thank you so much.
All right.
Andrew, thank you. Hi, Anya. Oh, you're on mute, Anya.
Mute.
You're on mute.
I hate doing these things in front of the group, but I just wanted to commit 50,000 as the first bit of the 500 that you're looking for. So
Wow,
we
thank
can
you,
talk
thank
about
you,
that.
thank you.
You can
Anya.
do that in front of the group, Anya.
I hate doing that. I usually like doing these things anonymously.
Wow,
So,
awesome.
Oh,
Thank
that's
you.
awful.
Thank
That's
you.
awful.
Thank you.
all right,
Thank you
you're
so
welcome.
much.
Well, and we'll chat, Anya. I don't know if you're okay with us sharing that too, because it may inspire. So
Yeah, just don't say who
Yeah.
it is. I don't like people knowing.
won't do
Yeah.
that.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. Take care, guys.
Fantastic.
Thank you. And Madupa and
Thank
Patrick,
you.
thank you, Anya. Thank you.
Sure.
You. I would love to do some brass tacks conversations about trying to get the First Lady to engage with us early in the year at some point. Like, that'll help us get where we need to be. I think, let's see who's still on. So I think Susan is going to be, my hope is she'll be a potential bulk of that 500,000. But I can also see Carolyn, committing, and also from the Miles Mulcahy Fund. So they have a pool of funding that she and our former board chair, Ann Mulcahy, who I should have included on this, to be honest. But they committed, I think it was $80,000 to that match, something like that, or it was a big chunk. So I can see them doing that. You know, so we'll report back and let you know where we're at in a week or so, something like that. Does that sound good?
Yeah, sure. That sounds
Great
okay.
job.
The only thing is with the First Lady, we might have to delay slightly until after the new year because
Oh, yeah,
I know
yeah,
her
definitely.
schedule is quite busy and so on. Yeah, so we delay a bit. But for these other works, we can start immediately and
Yeah.
amongst ourselves and with the team.
And I wouldn't want to engage her before the new year, honestly. For us to have her speak to people, you're not going to get the attention of people. Like
Yeah,
we want to get those bigger pledges early next year rather than what people are trying to fit in by the end of this year, American folks. So,
exactly.
yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
makes
Well, I
sense.
think that was a good call. Did you guys think it went well?
Yeah.
I think so. It went well.
I
Yeah.
think so too. All
At
right.
least to get an immediate pledge like that shows it was good.
See?
Lots of-
I'm going to call Lucy right now. I'll let her know. Well, thank you all so much. This is going to be awesome. And
Thank you.
isn't Andrew great? Like, I feel like I'm excited
Andrew's
to
great.
like, he's so
yeah,
great.
yeah, he is.
He's so great. So,
Yeah.
that's going to be like, I want him to talk on all the calls. Honestly, I think he's
Yeah.
inspiring,
Yeah. Actually, follow up. I mean, I don't know whether you want to do it from your end or we can do it from our end to follow up both with Chantal and Andrew to see
Definitely.
now how we can get them in there.
And we can also stay aligned though too, because if there's stuff that's you're doing with that, I mean, like I think the fact that people know that this is a global push, I think is inspiring too.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Cool.
all right. Thank
Okay,
you.
thanks.
Thank you.
Well
Bye-bye.
done,
Okay, thanks,
Mary.
Thank you,
Thank
Madube.
you.
Well done to you. Good job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.
Bye-bye.